This is Fake It Till You Make It, a story about the rise and fall of Theranos CEO and founder Elizabeth Holmes. Theranos began with a quick success, but the real question is, was there ever really a success by the company? The truth is, sure, this was a great idea in theory, but in reality, its product was never proven to work correctly. It was simply a company that ran until it was proven to be a fraud, never actually proving its theory in the first place. If you don't know who Elizabeth Holmes is, you won't know Theranos. This blood sampling company was the breath in life of its CEO and founder. She worked endlessly to prove her worth as a 19-year-old Stanford dropout. However, when the ego takes over the human mind, people tend to act outside of their good conscience. Elizabeth Holmes was raised in Washington, D.C. She was accepted into Stanford to study chemical engineering in 2002. In 2003, she dropped out of Stanford with ideas of her next big project. In the start of Theranos, Holmes claimed the analyzer was able to perform a full range of clinical tests using a small blood sample drawn from a finger stick. She also represented that the analyzer could produce results that were more accurate and reliable than those yielded by conventional methods, all at a faster speed than previously possible. The evidence showed that Holmes knew the analyzer had accuracy and reliability problems, performed a limited number of tests, was slower than competing devices, and in some respects could not compete with existing, more conventional machines. Evidence also showed that Holmes resorted to using conventional machines bought from third parties to perform much of Theranos' blood testing. Meaning, in the end, there was really no machine. Her machine never proved to be what she promised it was going to be. The minds behind Theranos included not only Elizabeth Holmes, the CEO and founder, but COO Ramesh Sunny Balwani. They were both behind the fraud, charged with 9 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Elizabeth Holmes had a net worth of $4.5 billion at the height of her career. With the influence of Steve Jobs and the motivation of a true CEO, Holmes created the monster of Theranos and ran with it. She made appearances across the nation that spread her extraordinary ideas. Holmes did not waste any time when it came to raising money for her company. In 2003, the company was founded, and by 2004, $6.9 million was raised, valuing the company at $30 million. Fast forward to 2014, over $400 million was raised, valuing the company at $9 billion, making Holmes a billionaire, valued herself at $4.5 billion. Investors included the family of former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, Rupert Murdoch, and the Walton family of the Walmart fame. Investors were caused to believe that Theranos had a machine up and running that was ready to test for patients across the nations, ready to change lives. The fall of Theranos started in 2015 when the Wall Street Journal ran another article alleging management of rigging tests to produce better results for its Edison machines.
Lately, one of the most exciting privately held companies in Silicon Valley has come under fire. I'm talking about Theranos. That's the diagnostics company with the ultra-fast finger prick blood testing technology that's aiming to upend the entire traditional healthcare establishment by making it easier, less expensive, and much less uncomfortable for you to get tested for a whole range of conditions. For the last few years, Theranos has been viewed as a revolutionary company. CEO has been heralded as next Steve Jobs. The company's been valued as much as $9 billion in its most recent round of fundraising. But Theranos also has its critics, and just this morning, the Wall Street Journal ran a pretty scathing article about the company, alleging that the company's proprietary testing devices may be inaccurate, and basically accusing Theranos of deceptive practices. The journal cites a former employee who claimed that of the 240 tests offered by Theranos, only 15 are actually performed on the company's proprietary Edison diagnostic machine, vast majority of the rest being done on traditional lab equipment. The article was pretty brutal, but here on Mad Money, we know something. We know that there are 2 sides to every single story, which is why I think it's important that we speak to Elizabeth Holmes, the founder and CEO of Theranos, who's coming to us this afternoon from Boston, where she's attending a meeting of the Board of Fellows at Harvard Medical School, to give her a chance to answer the charges raised in the article. Ms. Holmes, welcome back to Mad Money.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I have to tell you, in all my years, I can't recall a private company that I have to candidly many have never heard of getting this kind of attention and scrutiny. What do you think's going on here?
This is what happens when you work to change things. And first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. And I have to say, I personally was shocked to see that the Journal would publish something like this when we had sent them over 1,000 pages of documentation demonstrating that the statements in their piece were false. But we're doing things differently, and we're working to make a difference, and that means people raise questions, and that's okay. But in this case, it was pretty disappointing to see that after every single one of the sources that we spoke with, who the Journal had contacted, told us that the statements that were being attributed to them were false or misleading, and the only sources who were left were ones who wouldn't speak with us, who on their own website say that they now do business with LabCorp in their office, or in the other case, demanded in writing that we pay them in cash up front $2,500 for an hour to talk to them about their statements to the Journal.
Did the Journal know?
Then in 2016, U.S. regulators banned Theranos founder CEO Elizabeth Holmes from owning and running a medical laboratory for 2 years. The company announced that the Center for Medicare and Medical Services also revoked regulatory approval for Theranos' California lab. This ban was directly correlated with the Wall Street Journal article. Since the announcement came out, the company had admitted to being investigated by several regulators following a series of reports. This is directly after Walgreens agreed to shut down 40 of its Theranos wellness centers in Arizona, ending the company's lab testing services in Palo Alto. After Holmes and Balwani tried to save what they could, Theranos shut down in 2018. Not soon after the company had shut down, in March of 2018, the SEC charged Theranos and owner Elizabeth Holmes. After the release of the Wall Street Journal article, many investors became weary of the company itself. Walgreens, who had teamed up with the company in 2013, lost $50 million when they quit their partnership. When they sued for misrepresentation, they reached a settlement of $140 million for breach of contract. San Francisco Partner Fund Management had partnered with Theranos in 2014. They invested over $96 million. They then sued Theranos, Holmes, and Balwani in 2016 after their investment. The hedge fund accused Theranos of securities fraud, alleging that Holmes and Balwani had raised the funds through a series of lies, material misstatements, and omissions. These investors settled their lawsuit in 2017 for an undisclosed amount that was reportedly approximately half of their investment. In April of 2017, it was settled with the Arizona Attorney General to fork over $4.65 million to Arizona residents who had paid for the company's blood tests. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid was responsible for the 2-year ban of Theranos, which they also had to pay $30,000 to. When looking at the SEC elements of wire fraud, it is shown by definition that the defendant voluntarily and intentionally devised or participated in a scheme to defraud another out of money, or that the defendant did so with the intent to defraud, or that it was reasonably foreseeable that the interstate wire communications would be used, or that interstate wire communications were in fact used. Now, in a statement given by the SEC, Theranos, Holmes, and Balwani made numerous false and misleading statements in investor presentations, product demonstrations, and media articles by which they deceived investors into believing that its key product, a portable blood analyzer, could conduct comprehensive blood tests from fingered drops of blood. But Theranos' device was only able to analyze a small number of tests, and the company did the rest of the test on a modified and industry-standard commercial analyzers manufactured by others. In an SEC press release, it was stated that Holmes raised more than $700 million from investors through an elaborate years of long fraud in which they exaggerated or made false statements about the company's technology, business, and financial performance. Now, why did she do it? She didn't do it because she meant to steal $700 million from investors. However, she did it because she believed that she had an idea that was fully capable. However, she never let that stop her. She never let the idea that her machine never actually worked. She just kept going. She kept going and going until it was too late. Until investors were taken out of their money, till the SEC really uncovered what was going on. The amazing thing is that many investors do just like they did with Theranos. They blindly go into a company not knowing exactly what its promises will be. But at the end of the day, it's similar to the stock market. You never know when they're going to drop and when they're going to rise and when they're going to hit big. Now, Elizabeth Holmes made it seem like she was going to hit big. Yet in the end, she fooled everyone to believe what she had been faking the entire time. When looking at this case, it's amazing to see how many investors truly believed in Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes had a superpower to her that made anyone believe what she said. They were by her side through it all, no matter what happened, until the last straw finally dropped. Now, in this case, Holmes not only robbed people of the truth, but she avoided failure by endless lies in hopes of one day changing the health industry.